Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our workshop today, the 28th of October. I hope everyone is having a great month. And the purpose of this workshop is basically how we can learn from other states that has closed their state institutions. Today we have members from OZAC, Organs of Advocacy Coalition in Oregon, and how they close their DD institutions.
Okay.
Before we get started, one of our panelists, our secretary, Courtney, do you want to please go ahead and talk about your experience?
Definitely. I lived in the military life. Like when I was first born in 1991 in Newport, Rhode Island. When I was the reason I actually did a somersault first in my mom's stomach, and then I came out via C-section. And the doctors already had a place for me in an institution. My parents, like, when my parents found out they had a place for me in an institution, they said, no, we want to take care of our daughter. So that's how my story starts out. And then I had sisters that were normal. One was born in 1994. My first sister was born in 1994. My second sister was born in 1996. I moved every 3 years because my dad was in the Navy for 21 years. We moved around so much that it was hard for me to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or do anything in self-advocacy until I came to Washington in 2001. I moved from city to city when I moved to Washington from Hawaii in 2001. At first, I lived in Yelm, then Clearwood in Yelm, Washington, then Rainier High School, and then I bounced around so many schools that I was raped and molested, and I even got raped in my own home. It felt like I was in an institution when I was segregated in school. That's how it felt like for me. I was living in the community, but living in and being a Navy brat. That's what it was like for me. I got bullied so bad for being a bisexual and non-binary. I didn't know that at the time, especially with me having Down syndrome. My Down syndrome is mixed, so it's really hard for me in school. I was mainstreamed into special needs classrooms and the normal classrooms, like in the so I did both. And the only place that I fit in was with the football players and the cheerleaders, because people mistake me as a cheerleader since my disability made me so flexible. So what I'm trying to say is my story does have an impact, and I've been an ally for my friends who are in institutions because I know what it feels like not to be treated like animals. And I know we do not deserve to be treated that way, because I was treated that way in school.
Anything else you want to add, Courtney?
So since I've been in Tenaya, Washington since 2008, I lived a better life, even though it was not an institution. I truly believe that all institutions, all state DD institutions and across the United States to be shut down permanently, even when in school. Even the ones here in Washington. Because I don't want to see my friends like Mike Raymond or Robert Waddell get treated like animals in state DD institutions. Because I truly believe that we have the right to live in the community and live our own lives, like be married and have kids. Especially in the LGBTQ community. So I truly believe in all of us. Shut them down.
Thank you, Courtney, for sharing your experience. Very true. And let's do some introductions. And Kyle, do you want to take the lead on the introductions, please?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Kyle Matheson. I live here in North King County. I truly believe in this mission because I visited for Chris and I was appalled on what they said in privacy. But otherwise, this is a group that talks about how can we start shutting down our state DD institutions and how better on the timeline and making sure to support our folks that get in the community, better in the community than our RHCs. So I would like to go ahead and ask Craig Cecilia to introduce himself, please.
So I'm Craig Cecilia. I am a human resource and education coordinator for People First of Washington. I also suffer from, or not suffer, I live with a brain injury. I don't really suffer, but I live with a brain injury. No suffering here. In the beginning, there was a little suffering. And so they tried to put me in a neural rehab, which is another form of institution. And because of you guys, I ran from that. Yeah, because that would have been a bad thing. Because once you get in those places, it's hard to get out. Yeah, I love what I do and I support shutting them down. We all deserve to live in the community on our terms, right? Our terms, what we want to do, how we want to live, not how people want us to live. And let's go to Robert.
Robert Waddell.
Okay, Robert Waddell, you're next.
Thank you.
Robert M. Wardell. I lived in Rainier when I was teenager. I visited there when I was a little kid. Now I live out here in Tacoma, Washington. I wear too many hats. I'd like to know how we can close the institution. Thank you.
Mike Raymond, why don't you go next?
Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Raymond. The doctors told my mother to put me in there, and my sister is the one that helped me out. So that's it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Risa Hayes. If they
Thank you. My name is Risa Hayes, and I work for People First, and I'm also a part of this shutting them down. Thank you.
Mike Cantalia.
Oh, you can say it better than that, Kyle. No, you said I'm Mike Cantalia. I live in Snohomish. I have what's it called cerebral palsy. Some people call it CP for short. I've never been in an institution, but if I didn't have the natural supports I do, like all of you and my parents, I would be in an institution. I'm lucky I'm not. So yeah, and I'm part of shutting down coalition. I will take it to Sean Langford. The floor is yours, my friend.
All right, Sean, it's yours.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Latham from Olympia. I'm the director of Washington State Allies and Advocacy, a state self-advocacy organization that fights for the civil and equal rights of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, works with the State Developmental Disabilities Network partners and other self-advocacy organizations to improve the lives of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We strongly believe people should live, work, and play in the community.
I'm gonna bow to one of my members.
All right, Jessica, you're next.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Ritter. I'm the mobilization manager for South Advocacy Leadership Sale, and I also support the mission of shutting down the institutions for all engineering support.
Ivanova. Hey, Ivanova, would like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, this is Ivanova Smith. I'm sorry, my kids are a little bit they're roughhousing right now. I'm Ivanova Smith. I live in Tacoma, Washington. I am the Pierce County president of People First of Washington. And I lived in the institution for the first 5.5 years of my life. And later today, I'll go in more detail about my story. But just for now, this is my introduction. I'm on University of Washington Land faculty and an activist advocate at work. And yes, I will have 2 little Zoom bombers. My daughters, Alexandra and Hildegard, may interrupt. I apologize for that in advance. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, the one that says Galaxy Tab 58S. Would you please introduce yourself? S5E, excuse me. And you're on mute.
You talk to me?
Yes, I'm talking to you. Could you please introduce yourself?
Oh, Sherry Osborne. I went to school down the Fairview, down the Salem, long time ago. But 1973, I got out, 73, I 18 years old, I moved in. My parents lived there at 25. Then I had my old apartment. Then I keep on moving in and out, and I live alone almost over 40 years now. Then Fairview, not very nice to me. I was down there. They nice some ways, in other ways they're not. But they're not very nice, some people down there. And they keep on kicking and hitting and putting a walker room if you do something wrong.
All right, thank you, Terry. Justin, Sherry, excuse me. Okay, Justin, would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Justin Maxwell, and I am a sale member and a People First member, and Representative 5, and the president of my Kitsap County chapter. And I'm fully supportive of shutting down institutions. So I used to think they were okay until I was put in one, and I didn't like the experience. There's no reason to have them. And the people in there were not happy about it either. Some of them actually lived in it, from what I remember. And yeah, it wasn't a good experience. I've been into Yakima Valley and Fairfax. So Fairfax is not on the list. I was supposed to go to either Rainier or Western Hospital, but they didn't have any beds. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
That's okay, Justin. Miss Eric Warwick. If you'd like, kindly introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, my name is Eric. I use she, her pronouns. I work at the Art Gift County. I'm a self-advocate with autism, and it's great to be here.
And Mel Folsom. Or Folden. Excuse me if I pronounce your last name wrong. Mel, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Mel's Felton. I use they, them pronouns. I am the project director for the Inland Northwest Disability Experience, a center for independent living in Eastern Washington. I am also a self-advocate who is autistic. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. It's now my great pleasure once again to reintroduce our friend from Oregon. Her name is Sherry, and she'll talk about her. I mean, she already talked a little bit about, we also have a film. Eric, do you want to take it from there, please?
Yes, I have a message, a video, a 5-minute video. I'm gonna, from Ozak from Oregon. And so we'll start out with that, and then we'll have her to talk about her experience. So just give me one moment here, and I will pull this up. And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
What do you see?
Oh, yeah.
It's a family. It's a,
Perfect. Okay. All right. Let's watch this and go along with that. Thank you.
I'm Linda, and I'm a self-advocate. Well, I lived at home until I was 15. I lived with my mom and dad. The whole Gear family were loggers. My grandfather and my uncles and my dad. Oh, he was really great. My dad was really cool. He liked to joke around with people. And I guess that's where I get mine too.
You do.
But yeah, he
Nice
had a lot of
picture.
faith in me. And so did my mother. Well, I had spinal meningitis when I was 6 weeks old, and they didn't think I was going to live. But my dad said I would. And besides, he always said that I was too damn mean to die. When I was a little girl, he would tell me, he goes, Linda, you can do anything you want to do when you get bigger, when you get older. And he really believed. He knew that I was, of course, I was handicapped and everything, but he really thought that he really believed that I could do things on my own. But most of my life, I lived at home. My teacher told me about Fairview one time, and he said that it was a really good place. And I thought, well, maybe I could try it out. It was my idea to go to Fairview. It was not their idea at all. In fact, my mom and dad didn't want me to go, but I wanted to go. And mainly, I wanted to find my own friends, because I was always with them, with their friends, and I wanted my own friends. I thought that I could be more outgoing than I already am. When I heard about Fairview, I thought it would be very good for me. It was an institution. And there were several people that lived there. It was about over 120, 25 people. Well, it wasn't that good compared to my expectations. I mean, I liked the people that lived there, but I didn't like the way the AIDS treated people. I know some of the patients got hurt from some of the staff, and some of them got pregnant from some of the staff too. And they gave me too much medicine. Of course, my mom and dad, they were right there. After my aunt called them, they were with it up there within an hour. One of the women told me when I was about 16 or 17, I was talking about something about when I get out of Fairview. And she told me, she says, well, honey, you're never going to get out of Fairview. You're always going to be here. And I said, oh yeah, lady, just watch me. And they did. When I was little, I kind kind of blamed everybody because I was in a wheelchair. And everybody else around me was not in a wheelchair. So I always felt sorry for myself that I was the only one in a wheelchair and everything. And when I went to Fairview, I saw all these others in wheelchairs and everything, and how happy they were. Yeah, I just turned around. I wanted to help other people, and that kind of stuck with me. We started People First at Fairview. And somebody mentioned to me one time about a meeting, and I asked what it was, and somebody said, well, we don't know the name of it yet, but then I think I said, well, how about People First? Handicap Second. And that's what we named it. I mean, people think they know what we need, but they don't. They wanted to run it for us, and we said no, that we wanted to run it, and that's the way it stood. If we kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it. And now it's all over the state. I am very, very, very proud of that, because people didn't think I would be able to do anything like that. I told them, yes, I will. I got out of Fairview when I was in my 20s. When I left Fairview, they made me my own guardian, so I can say what goes and what doesn't go. Really nice to be out on my own. Nobody tells me what to do, and I make that very, very clear. I'm very persistent. Very. Make that very. One time, somebody got mad about that one time, and I said, well, you can always get glad in the same pants you got mad in. When I moved up here to Portland, the first job I had was at the United Cerebral Palsy workshop. And then I started going to school. I went to college. I was on the board, and I was an advocate at Independence Northwest. And I was the president for a while. And I started going to school last year too. And I've taken sign language too, because it's really important for people to be able to talk to people that are deaf. Still, I'm like 71, I'm still learning. Self-advocacy is to help people to learn how they can do things for themselves.
Right.
So, people with disabilities are just like everybody else. They need to have something to do. They need to feel like they're helped, is what I'm saying, and not to be hindered to anybody. Well, my story is trying to help people. They said that I would never have a life. I would never be able to be out on my own. I really do wish they could see me now.
All right. What do you?
That's great.
And Sherry, if you're from Oregon, would you like to please share your experience a little bit more?
Yeah, it's time for me to go.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Courtney, for your wonderful story, and
Your experience.
and take care and have fun.
Thanks. You guys enjoy the rest of this workshop.
So we done?
No, we're not done. Courtney had to leave for something else. So
Just our
we're fine.
secretary had to
Oh.
leave for something else. It's all good, so let's carry on. And Sherry, if you want to talk a little bit more about your experience, go right ahead.
Me? You want me to talk about me?
Yes, talk about you and how Oregon shut down their institutions so that we could learn from you.
Well, I'm kind of glad they shut down 2000. They're not, like I said before, they're not treating people very well. So anyway, it's not open anymore, of course, down to Fairview and Salem. And I lived there a long time since I little. I had peppinitis. Doctors think I never make this long. I'm 67 years old. Then I went private hospital in Herberton. Then I went Pendleton. That's how I went to Fairview. my uncles had to take me down there. And I got out 73, lived with my parents a long time, and I used to help all kind of people down the Fairview. I used to feed babies and get care of blind people, work peace and hearing, all different things I used to do. And babies, of course, and feed them. I did different things, but Fairview start getting bad. I was down there, but I kind of happy they closed it down 2000 in Oregon. They're not very nice people down. Any more you need?
Whatever you want to tell us, it's up to you.
So anyway, I used to work in the dining room too, feed everybody, and work different places. I was down there working, but it's kind of good. This shut down 2000. So my question is, you guys, what happened up there? Where those people going?
All right, well, now we will go to our panel. We have a few people.
Want me to introduce him, or do you want to introduce him?
Since I would like to, if that's okay, Kyle.
Go ahead.
Since I'm kind of in the middle of that. Mike Raymond,
Yes.
can you please share your experience of what it was like for you living in an institution?
They treated us like a dog. I seen back then it was terrible, and it still is. Thank you.
Anything else you want to add, Mike?
What do we want? Shut them down.
Right.
Shut them down.
Right.
Yes.
Down.
How about we burn the buildings down? That'd be lovely.
Thank you. And our next panelist, he is here, Robert Rodell.
When I visit Rainier as a little boy, my parents and the state said, "Oh, put this guy in Rainier," and lived there for a long time. I did, but I didn't like it. And now I live in the community setting where a whole bunch of people are treated nice and equal. I think we need to shut down Rainier and show the land. Thank you.
Anything else you want to add, Robert, or are you okay with what you just said?
I think that we need to get the legislators and other people to agree that we need to shut down the 4 institutions. We had 6. We closed Lakeland Village and Francis Hyde Morgan. We got 4 left. Brookcrest, Rainier, Lakeland Village, and one in Yakima that we have not even shut yet.
Thank you, Robert. Ivan Nova Smith, can you talk about your experience? Ivan Nova?
You talk to me?
Hello.
Hi. Ivan Nova, do you want to tell us your experience?
Yes. So my experience, my first experience with life was being institutionalized. From when I was a baby, from when I was 5 and a half, I lived in an institution. And the way that I can describe how things were in that institution was every day was the same. I had no concept of who I was as a person. I had no concept of who I was as like in my environment. Like I had no concept of like what a family was, what life was, traditions, culture, ethics, faith, any of that, family values, family love, family snuggles, intimacy. I did not experience any of that. Like a lot of kids' first memories are, I don't even know what a lot of kids' first memories is, but a lot of people, what they tell me is like, oh, you know, my first birthday, or like when, you know, I was on a holiday with my family and I was like 2 and it was a lot of fun, or things like that, really positive stuff. And my first memories was broken glass on the ground and how colorful it was. Like my first positive memories was not of family and fun and ice cream and holidays and birthdays and culture or any of that. It was sterile, gray walls, nothing. This like machines or monsters. There were other people, but they had no relation to you, and you didn't know them, and they didn't know you, and you didn't even know yourself. Like I didn't even know who I was. And so I was in a room with like 30 other kids, and the way that we had baths was like they had a plastic bath and they would spray us down, and we like waited in line naked. I would just stare at the ceiling, and I would just look at the little floaters in my eyes. That's something, I guess, part of my eye condition. I have strabismus in my eyes, and so it causes like little floaters. And I would like there was no property. There was no property. Like I didn't own the clothes that I wore. Like the clothes were all shared. There was no birthdays. There was no one-on-one time with the caregivers. They were actually not allowed to give us any type of intimacy or love, because they were told if they gave us that, then if we needed to be transferred or moved, then it would make that worse. And I am very blessed that the institution I was in, I was able to get adopted. And I was adopted when I was 5 and a half. First time in my life I had chocolate, ice cream. First time in my life I learned what my name was. I learned what I remember when I was adopted. I remember being taken to a car and being scared of the car, thinking of this big metal monster. Because anytime I saw these things, like the big trucks that would take away the garbage and things, I just thought it was a big metal monster. I thought the train that my adopted parents were trying to take us on was a big monster that was eating us. So I had meltdown with my adopted parents, because I thought they were taking me into a big metal monster that was going to eat us. This was a world outside of this institution. I thought all of the world was in this building, this one building, and I lived in a room with like 40 other kids, and there was just rows of beds, and like they put the toys in glass cases. And there were like only a few toys we were allowed to play with, and only a lot of the kids fought over the toys, and they always pushed me away. Like I never got to be, got to play with toys and things like that. And so my early life, my first 5.5 years of life was just fighting to just like, sitting in a corner and just trying to stay out of anyone's way. I think that was probably my mindset. I had really no experience with life really in that institution, and I apologize. Now my daughter is needing my attention.
That's okay. Thank you for sharing your story, Ivanova.
That
That
is my story of what I lived in that institution and what it was like. And thank you for hearing that.
Thank you for sharing that experience. That was very great, Ivanova. Kyle Matheson, I see a couple of things in the chat box. Do you want to read out separately for our?
Sure, be glad to.
Thank you.
The first question, actually, these next two questions are directed to Sherry from Oregon. First question is, how did the Oregon Self Advocates convince the legislators to close down Fairview?
Well, I'm kind of glad they closed in Fairview. And I know it's kind of hard to think that, like I said, well, some people had to go to group home or foster home or whatever. And there's about 4 or 5 of them. Well, I didn't do that part, but some people shut down in Fairview 2000. Everybody's happy and close it. They're not treated very well. So everybody's happy, shut down. I am too.
Well, that's great. And
Yeah.
then the second follow-up, which is you already mentioned, is you spoke about where people did transition from Fairview. Where did they go? Did they transition more into the community, or how did they, or
I don't
what?
know. I don't know how, but some people, the attendants or caseworker, wherever they are, they had to help them wherever they had to go. Going to rehab or what? I don't know. My brother
Great.
asked me same thing last night. His brother-in-law put to go in that institute in the Washington. He didn't go. He got a house from his parents.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happened. He didn't want to go there. It's a bad news. That makes sense?
Yeah, that it totally makes sense. It sounds like they have transitioned pretty well into the community, in their community, and they're liking what they're like, especially like you, and their DD case managers help that transition part of their case management through DD, through the local DD happens to help them with that transition and making sure that the money follows the person and all that good stuff.
Right. So anyway, whoever need help, they had to go PA. There's some people can't take care of the money. That's what PA stand for. Did that make sense?
Personal assistant. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So those people up there, where are they going?
Yeah, and it sounds like most of them have either a personal assistant or somebody that's through SLP, which is a supported living program, and which is it's the same thing up here where they have, or a rep payee, where they have, so that they can still live out in the community, but the rep payee helps them with their budget.
But like me, like I live alone, there's some disabilities cannot take care of themselves. Somebody had to help them. Did that make sense? I used to help everybody. I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, I know I did that too. I help people with disabilities quite a bit. And now because of my bursitis in my back, I can't do much in the lifting department.
Right. I got done had my knees replaced, one of them, another one I'd be having done April. Now I got done having my hand done. See?
Wow.
Oh dear.
Well, that's all the questions in here. Maybe I can ask Mike Raymond. You're now living with your niece, and I know that you really like it. What was it before your niece? I know that you got married, and your wife has since then passed away, but you had a great daughter who now lives in Green Bay and doing quite well. How did it like feel to be where you're now? And
I like it really, really well, because I did not like the way they were doing after we had that disease. I don't like to be locked up. So that's what it is.
All right, great job. Thank you.
Yeah, that's why, excuse me. That's why most people doesn't like to lock up in the Fairview. It's not very good place to lock up with.
Mm-hmm.
Did that make sense?
Can I just say something real quick?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
I just want to say, like, what a lot of us survivors of institutionalization mean by being, we don't want to be locked up. It's the institutions treated us like prisoners.
Yes, right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like prisoners. And actually, if you look at a historical document, even for Rainier School and other state schools that are across the country, they actually refer to people like as inmates. The same language they used for when they would put criminals in prisons. When I use the language of the people with intellectual disability for criminalized, I'm very serious in that we were criminalized. It was a crime to be intellectually disabled, and you were put in an institution, you were in prison. And the fact that we now are having language called crisis stabilization, that is a way to use these institutions as a form of punishment for when we have challenging behaviors. And that is something I'm very concerned about and something that still goes on today. So this fight against the criminalization of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities is still happening today. And it's happening with even people who think it's people who partnered and said, oh, we want disability rights, but it's okay to use crisis stabilization in institutions when we know that institutions have been used as a form of a prison for people with intellectual developmental disabilities, and we have not committed any crime. There should not be any crime, but in a way, there is the indirect crime of having intellectual disabilities while these institutions are still open. And so I really feel that we need to end this criminalization and we need to close these institutions because we should not be treated as prisoners for having intellectual and developmental disabilities. We should not be restricted in our sexual activities. If we want to be married, have children, we should be able to do that in where we live. We can't do that in an institution. How are you able to do that in institutions? You're only able to do things like that in a community. And every person with intellectual and developmental disability have the right to have children, to reproduce, to have rights to do things that other adults do in the community outside of having children. You know, there's other adult activities. I just use having children a lot because I have kids. So that's just something that's really important to me. But there's other adult activities that are very restricted in institutions. Why? Because the institutions are designed to treat us like inmates when we haven't even committed any crime. And so that's why I'm so passionate about this, that we really need to close them. But because while they are still open, it still allows people to criminalize us, to see us as criminals for just having disabilities. And that's not okay. And it needs to change. And heck, it doesn't help with the stigmatization of people who are labeled as criminals. And maybe it's not because they've, it's because of just laws, but because of unjust laws. And that's even more, there is a lot of movement around criminal justice reform, but there are still institutions to criminalize people who there is no crime. And so I think that maybe this discussion should move to criminalization justice reform, because there are a lot of people that are labeled criminals that they're not really criminals. Sorry, I just thought about that. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Ivanova. That is great. And Justin, you have something to say?
Yeah, can I don't know if I'm allowed to or not, but can I talk about my experience or something?
Yes.
Or
Yes, please. Yes, you can. We have
oh,
time.
okay then. Well, it's probably gonna be a long story, so if it's too long, tell me to stop. All right, Eric?
Okay. You have the floor, Justin.
All right. Well, years ago, I can't really remember because I didn't really think about it. I didn't want to think about it. But back in the day, when after high school, I was, going down the drain with my hose. Yeah, and so, and most of it was the medicine, and I can't go any further with that topic, but it was the medicine. And because my parents told me not to talk about it. And anyways, so something happened. The cops came and they said, okay, what would you like to do? Would you, and I guess they wanted to put me in the hospital. So they put me in the back of the ambulance, strapped me down. There was no need for that because honestly, I couldn't do anything but be sad and talk to the guy next to me. It was the paramedic. And I went to the hospital and they were talking about, where they were gonna put me. First they decided, okay, let's put him in right there. Oh no, they didn't have enough beds because they're full. Well, I didn't really care now that I think about it. And they had me in, and then when I was half asleep, one of the doctors came in and said, okay, we're putting you in the hospital. You're going to Fairfax or Yakima Valley. But I've already been in the hospital, which is Yakima Valley, one of the worst places you can go to. And then I went to the hospital and I was in Fairfax. And all I got to do was walk around like a dodo head and feel like I was in prison. And I even said that I was in prison. If I kept telling all the inmates, not the inmates, what the heck. Anyways, I kept telling the other patients, I feel like I'm in jail. I mean, the staff heard me and they all had open wide eyes and I didn't like the way they were looking at me. I mean, honestly, I didn't like it at all. And it wasn't fun. Of course not. And all I had to do was eat sandwiches and sit around and watch Pink Panther, that movie with Steve Martin in it. I like it, but I didn't want to watch it every day. And sit there and twiddle my thumbs like I was, stupid. And they kept giving me medicine. I didn't need all that medicine, and I felt like a zombie. There was nobody to talk to, but it was. I mean, I actually was friends with the relative from one of my ex-vice president of the People First chapter. He was a good man, but I didn't really want to talk to him all the time. Anyways, a lot of them were very depressed because they had to stay there. I didn't like it at all. And well, we didn't get to choose the food, but you know, it was only when we were good. And I'm like, okay, I'm just kindergarten. Whatever. So then you know, I didn't the windows. Oh boy, I could tell you I was planning to escape, but I couldn't. Because they had burrows in the windows. They had burrows everywhere. I just remember laying in bed wide awake because I couldn't sleep. Because there was a camera in there. Because I asked the staff, "Are you guys having cameras in there?" And you know what they told me, guys? Yes. I looked at them. 1 minute, Frey, I'm talking. Sorry, guys. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Because yeah, anyways, it was awful. And then I kept getting wake up because I was scared. I had nightmares and I kept hearing people screaming and you know, all that bad stuff. Then I heard someone say this, and I repeat, sorry, my cousin. I heard someone say, "I want to go home." I'm like, okay, then I'm going to sleep. Oh golly, I'm sorry, my cousin wants something. Hold on a minute.
It's okay.
Anyways, they gave me a shot in the middle of the night. Then the nurse was right next to me. I'm like, giving her a dirty look, like, what do you think you're doing? The beds were hard. My back hurt every day. And it was awful. And also, I just couldn't sleep some nights, like I said. The medicine was awful. The food was a little delicious, but I didn't always like the food. They gave us ice cream, but I was pretty suspicious that there was something in that ice cream. I'm so sorry. My cousin wants something.
It's okay. You have a great family there. It's okay.
I'm gonna talk while I get for water. Anyways, it was awful. It was just wait, hold on a minute. Oh, you want to use my neck shrine cup? That's cute. Anyways, yeah, I was through it definitely. And I didn't like it at all. I didn't like what they were doing. I didn't like the things they told me, especially with the cameras in the room. And I couldn't even go in anybody's rooms. Well, okay, I understand the female and the male thing, but the thing is, I got yelled at for being in a guy's room. Like, hello. Honestly, I could be in this room. I had to get out, or they would have done something to me. So with that being said, no, I did not have a good time. I had nightmares. I had a lot of stuff going on. They lied to us. The staff was just doing whatever the heck they were doing. They were in there gossiping and being all blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, do your damn job. Sorry, my bad. I just get angry when I talk about this kind of things.
It's okay.
So anyways,
Solidarity, Justin. Solidarity. I'm with you. I'm having the same. Yeah, solidarity.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it was awful. But then I was happy when I got out. Yeah, I was happy. I was like, no, I'm never going there again. And you know what? And I was worried about the others. Because honestly, guys, fats is dangerous. It may not be on the list, but it's just as bad as Yakima Valley, Rainier, all of those other places. It's not on the list, but it's bad. For drug addicts, registered pedophile, which I don't really want to go into. Yeah, it was awful. And it took me 3 years to get over the nightmares. So anyways, I don't remember how many years, but it took me some time. So yeah, I'm totally on your side about this, and I agree with you. I know it was awful. Yeah.
It was HE double hockey stick.
Thank you. Thank you, Ivan Nova, for saying some words along with Justin's experience. Thank you.
Could I mention one thing?
Yes, go ahead.
When I help everybody, since I've retired, I work Hollywood Senior Center 2 days a week, Meals on Wheels. I volunteered there.
Okay.
Right, you still do community service, even though you're retired. That's what I am. I'm retired and I still do community service. So.
Yeah, I work Meals on Wheels, people.
Mhm.
That's all I do. I work 2 days a week, but there's Meals on Wheels all over the place. Whoever needs help, like going to the hospital, if you can't cook, they could deliver to you.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Meals on Wheels.
Yes.
What do we want? Close them down.
Awesome, Mike. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and the last
Yes.
thing that Ivanova put in the chat was she was institutionalized from 1988 through 1994. And she said, forgot about getting how much to eat. And she didn't even learn the native language she was at down in Lafayette. And said she was drugged as well. Means that they did something so that she didn't go bonkers. if I'm reading her right.
They gave me a ton of, I don't know what they gave me, but they gave me a ton of drugs. And the way that we know about it is because my adopted dad, he has researched, people who have drug addiction and drug withdrawals and people who have to take psychiatric drugs and people who take tranquilizers, and he knows all the withdrawal symptoms for that kind of stuff. And after they adopted me, they adopted an agency, like gave them all my diagnosis, like they even named my parents some paperwork saying I was mentally disabled and I was IDD, but then they didn't tell them that they had me on all these drugs. And so I started having really bad withdrawal symptoms, and my dad realized that they were withdrawal symptoms. A lot of people would probably just think, oh, this tantrums. Like, no, this is a actual withdrawal symptom from antipsychotics. And so, yeah, when I was in the institution, I was put on a lot of antipsychotics. I don't know how many. I don't know the diagnostic. I don't know the dosages, but the withdrawal symptoms were very extreme. And in that institution, they kept all the kids very docile and calm by just giving them a bunch of drugs and not let, we only got a little bit of time to play with toys. And we also did not get to eat that much. Like, it was like watery soup. It was just watery vegetable soup. And if you spilled any or didn't finish your meal or anything like that, you didn't get to eat for the rest of the day. Like, it was, and I didn't learn about things like ice cream or chocolate or like special things, and like things like I didn't have spaghetti until after I had left the institution. We went to the bathroom in chamber pots, and I didn't even know my name, but I remember the environment, and it was not a home environment. It was a very lonely environment, and everything was very lonely. And I just don't want that for other people, and that's why I do this work. That's why I want to shut them down, because I'm appalled that even after I was adopted here, that that could be threatened on me. Like I remember in my youth, even after I was adopted, I went through school, and my adopted family was having a hard time understanding my disabilities and understanding me. And there were times they were scared that I would be put in Rainier, and there were times my dad was like, well, you don't stop acting this way, you're gonna be put back in, you're gonna be put in like one of all institutions. You're gonna be put in Rainier school if you don't stop being this way. And I couldn't stop being the way I was. And my parents were really scared. And I understand now that it was fear out of love. It wasn't fear out of hatred, it was fear out of love, and scared of how society was going to treat me and how they were going to, put me back in the institution. But it was like I couldn't stop being the way I was. I couldn't stop being intellectually disabled. I couldn't stop being autistic and stop being visible. Even with all the fear, I couldn't stop being the way I was. And I was like trying to accept that. And now I'm like, I want to fight against these institutions, because even if I'm visible, even if people with IDD are visible, we should not have to live in this fear. Our families should not have to live in this. So it's just wrong that we ever have to live in fear, that we get put back in these places, that we get put back in these environments. And the fact that they're still open makes it allowed for us to get put back in them. And so that's why we need to shut them down.
Right.
Thank you. Kyle, do you want to read the last few things in the chat box, please?
Sure, and then we also have Robert Ordell
Yes,
has his
I
hand up as
understand.
well. Okay,
Thank you.
Robert, well, I'll go and read these things and we'll get to you. So, Sean just basically says, would people be saying, open to saying a version of this meeting on YouTube and sharing it to the public? If not if it's not too sensitive to have a powerful testimony. That's from Sean Latham. Eric Warwick just says, thank you everyone for sharing your stories. In the short term, private psychiatric institutions for a little over 2 weeks when I was shut them down, according to there. And now, Mr. Robert Ordell, you had something you would like to add? Go right ahead, please.
When I lived at Rainier, it was it was a nightmare because of the user they would roll up some towels and hit people and drug them, and if you try to escape, they bring you back in their paddy wagon. And Rainier is a prison camp. Am I right, Michael?
Yep, you betcha, Bob. Robert.
It's time to close them, and let's close them so that we can have a better committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. That's great. Any other comments or questions for any of the panelists?
I just have one that says, I'm open for sharing, and then you just answer that you'll ask Krista things first, then I will follow up with you. And that's all, that's the only thing in the chat.
Okay, and Kyle, do you want to share your experience of
Oh, sure, be glad to.
that?
One of the biggest things, I personally have never been or lived in a state institutions, in the early 80s, when I was working for the PNA, which Protection and Advocacy, now it's DRW, I went to visit Furcrest, and I went to one of the halls, and I saw how the way the stalls are, so that the person, if got to go to the restroom, is brought in by a nurse, and it's pretty much wide open. Also, the beds area where they slept was just one single drawer, chest of drawers, and curtains. It's like hospital bedding. And the biggest things that the biggest thing that I didn't like hearing, and I was appalled, is something that's called in a private matter. It's like one nurse yelling to another nurse across the room saying, "Hey, this guy had a BM. This guy had a BM." And it was so, to me, it was like embarrassing. I would have been embarrassed for this guy, this person. And just saying, "Hey, why did you yell the private business when you can just say, hey, nurse A or nurse B or whatever, could you come over here for a second? Hey, I need you help cleaning up a little bit," and then stay more in private instead of yelling across the room. And that's one thing I hate when people being mistreated, was about yelling across the room about somebody's private business. Only time I hear somebody across the room, there was an emergency, saying, "Hey, I need help. This guy's going into a seizure, or epileptic seizure, and I need some help," so that they can get the medical attention, but not yelling across somebody and saying, having a BM. So in the limelight, that's since when I was in the 80s, but hopefully they are treating them a little bit better. But in the limelight, all these violations throughout all these different last 4 of our DD institutions are needing to be shut down because of the fact that I don't like to see people doing that, the nurses doing that, number one. Number two, all the violations. And have you heard the term bandage effect? That's what they have been doing. It's called the Band-Aid effect, because the feds came in, did their evaluation, and most of them has failed on many accounts. So the state comes in and says, "Okay, we'll work with you, but we need to get it passed so we can do a Band-Aid effect, so that until we get it cleaned up." It's been happening way too long, where if we shut them down, we start closing them down and putting people in the community, saves money, and it also helps people in the long run being a lot better instead of being cooped up and cooped up in an area. I mean, et cetera, and being in the et cetera. So that's my story. And thank you very much. If anybody's got any questions, I'll go and answer it.
Any comments or questions for Kyle or for anyone doing this workshop here? If not, then thank you for attending this great workshop. I hope we've learned a lot from each other, and I hope you have a great Halloween. You want to say anything else, Ivanova, or anyone?
This is your shot, just to let you know, if you want to say anything else, but as we're starting to conclude, and I personally thank everybody for all the presenters and everybody that came and took the time out and had fun and shared their stories. And this is what we need, stories, and especially success stories, and for people that have been there or have not, but known people, etc. So
what do we want? What do we want? Shut them down.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
I want to say one more thing. So there are some people that will argue that these institutions are a safety net, that community is too dangerous, and that some people just have to be in an institution. I want to say we need to come back from that, and we need to say no, nobody deserves to be in an institution, because you know where the most danger happens? It happens in an institution, because people are hidden in an institution. I was most likely sexually abused in that institution. Nobody knows about it Nobody was held accountable for it. I had night terrors from it. That's why I've had traumatic experiences from it, and I've had to overcome it. And thank goodness my husband has been very supportive and knew that being institutionalized would have such things happen to them. Was very supportive and helped me through those struggles. Institutionalization is not a safety net. It is not safer for anyone, no matter what your IQ score is. I don't care if your IQ score is 1. If your IQ score is 1, you are not safer in an institution. You are most likely to be abused, neglected, and sexually abused in the institution than you are in a community where there is accountability. You are more visible and you're not hidden like you are in an institution. This is why institutions need to be shut down, because institutions are breeding grounds for abuse and neglect and sexual abuse. And I just really want to be transparent about that. And I want to end that stupid argument that, oh, these institutions are safer and people are excuse my French, excuse my language here, but no, they fucking aren't. They are not. They're worse. They are abusive, and they breed abuse and hurt people and neglect people. And there's report after report that says, here's my language, and you're welcome to censor that out. But there's like Disability Rights Washington, go to their website, go to all of the reports. They have to report every year, and it's report out every year of all the abuses that are happening at these institutions. And you know what? It's not just the state schools, it's also at Western and at Eastern, the psychiatric institutions too. There's a lot of abuse happening there too. And they're getting away with it because people have this mindset that, oh, it's safer, it's safer. There's a safety net, there's a safety net. There is no safety net where there is abuse and sexual abuse happening. And it's that a person that was at Rainier School was a supervisor. He had worked at Rainier School for 30 years. 30 years he worked at Rainier School, and he became a supervisor. He became like the head, he became part of the head administration of Rainier School. And he was sexually abusing people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And he didn't get caught until 2015. He didn't get caught until 2015. What does that say about our system? What does that say about the institution? That guy was able to work there for 30 years before being caught for sexually abusing non-speaking people with IDD who couldn't say a thing. It's because they were hidden away for 30 years. Over 30 years, hundreds of years, these people have been hidden away. And it's only recently that sexual assault cases have started to come out. And that guy was able to work there for 30 years. And how much accountability is happening for all of the clients there that are at Rainier School who probably could not go up and say, hey, I also was abused by that supervisor. I also was abused by that guy. There's a lot of people probably that were abused by that person who haven't been able to come out and tell people. And it's because they're still stuck at Rainier School. They're still being treated as prisoners. And that need to be called out. And the fact that that's not called out is a huge problem. Sorry, I'm just very passionate about this, and I'll shut up now and get on a tangent.
Thank you, Ivanova, for the final wrap up on the workshop with your point there.
Happy
Mike
Halloween,
Whalen, is there-
everybody.
What was that, Sherry?
Happy Halloween, everybody.
Oh, thank you. Same to you.
Yeah.
I'd like to personally wish everybody a happy Halloween coming up on Monday. And as I always tell Eric here, you can remove your mask. Halloween is not here quite yet. But otherwise, No, but otherwise, personally, I would like to thank you on behalf of our committee, to thank you very much for everybody for coming. And I hope you have a great Halloween. Eric?
Yeah, can I say one thing real quick?
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
The way we're gonna shut these down, no one said it, and from my vantage point, is elect the right people to shut these down. Make sure you vote. Make sure you vote. Thank you, Eric.
You bet.
Apologize.
Yes. And Mike Raymond, I have a question for you.
What?
What do we want?
Shut him down.
All right. Well, thank you for listening and participating in this
Yeah.
workshop. And
Hey, Eric,
yes, Justin.
I have a joke for you. What do you think all these institutions should become during Halloween time?
You tell me.
I have an idea. They should become, do you know how haunted places and people like to walk through and be scared and everything? That's what they should be instead of putting people in them. There should be haunted places, haunted mansions, something like that. You know what I mean?
Thank you, Justin. And now I just thank you for the listeners that will be seeing this online pretty soon. So everyone have a great rest of the day and a great weekend. Thank you.
You too.